Hello, I'm Donald Leggett and welcome to the latest Focus IR CEO interview. I'm joined by Sapan Ghai, Chief Commercial Officer at Sovereign Metals, the AIM and ASX-listed Rutile and Graphite explorer and developer, focused on what may become the world's largest natural rutile mine, as well as a major source of graphite in Malawi, Southern Africa. Greetings, Sapan.
Greetings, Donald. Glad to be here talking to you and talking to your viewers and listeners all about Sovereign.
Yes, no, it's lovely to have you on today. Now, let me talk Sovereign. Sovereign have had a significant 2023, so why don't we start by giving this sort of overview of the Rutile and Graphite project which you run in central Malawi and the progress made during the year.
Yeah, so Sovereign Metals is advancing the Cassia Rutile Graphite project in Malawi. It is the largest rutile deposit ever found. It's the second largest flake graphite deposit in the world. We are looking at taking that from a PFS study stage, optimizing the PFS and working towards a DFS next year. 2023 has been quite an interesting year for us. We ended 2022 with the demerger of some small graphite projects that we had in the Sovereign asset package. Took those out, so management is totally focused on Cassia because it's just such a huge monster deposit, tier 1 deposit. It needs all our attention and focus. Come January this year, we announced some infill drill results which showed quite high grade rutile and graphite. Those were going to feed into our resource statement that we then used for our PFS later on in the year. Around March, we announced that Cassia would have the lowest CO2 emissions in the world in terms of production from graphite and rutile. Come April, we announced an increase in our indicated resource by 80% following that infill drilling I had alluded to previously. Then towards the middle of the year, we had done some test work on our graphite to see what it looked like within a lithium-ion battery sphere. It hit high purity, high crystallinity. I can go into what those mean, but essentially this graphite works well within lithium-ion batteries. July was a bit of a turning point for us. We had a new 50% shareholder in the guise of Rio Tinto come on board. They gave us $40 million for the rights to be 15% shareholder. That $40 million basically funds our DFS. Then after the summer, we put out a PFS. That PFS had great economics, exceptional economics, which basically put us head and shoulders above many other companies within the titanium and graphite space. Essentially, we're now looking to position ourselves as market leaders in both those commodities. October came along and we had a new team following the PFS. And now we're here towards the end of the year looking back.
Okay, so it's worth, forgive the phrase, but it's worth drilling down on the economic potential we're talking about here in terms of phase 1 and phase 2 of the potential mine that you're developing in Cassia.
Yeah, so look, the project is huge. So for a junior company of our size, what constrains the project, or what can we potentially do with this project without a Rio Tinto there? And that's what the PFS basically headlined. And for around $600 million of capex, which is financeable by a company of our market cap, we would have a 25-year initial mine life. That over those 25 years, we would be producing about 244,000 tons of graphite, 225,000 tons of rutile. That would make us the biggest producers in both those commodities. We could produce either of those commodities at just over $400 per ton. That would make us the lowest cost producer in each of those commodities. And that cost profile basically leads to an EBITDA of about $415 million per annum for those 25 years. Now, at the end of those 25 years, we'd have only mined 30% of the known resource. So you've still got 70% of the mineralization still in the ground after those 25 years. Why are we not mining the entire lot as fast as we can? ultimately we are a junior company. I could not sit here and talk about billions of dollars being thrown at this with a market cap of 120 million pounds as it is today. But now we have Rio Tinto on board. We're looking to optimize that PFS and really work out the true potential of that project.
Okay, you mentioned Rio Tinto as probably a good point. So how would, to take that further, so what advantages are there in Rio Tinto having a 15% stake?
Yeah, so I think it's worthwhile talking about the commodities and what they mean for a Rio Tinto. So Rio is the world's largest producer of titanium slag, which is a titanium feedstock. They produce about 1.2 million tons of it. They have operations in South Africa at Richards Bay, in Madagascar, and in Quebec. Now that product, that product, they've been producing for decades, so they understand the supply chains. They understand the titanium ecosystem. We as explorers, developers, it's something that was outside of our scope of knowledge. But having Rio Tinto there now, we unlock all that expertise, all that experience alongside them. And then when it comes to the graphite, so obviously graphite is the largest component in lithium-ion batteries as the anode, plays into the EVs very well. Again, as a junior mining company, it's very hard for us to be knocking on the doors of the big OEMs around town trying to figure out who's the right person to talk to who wants to take our product. Whereas a Rio Tinto, who already has MOUs with the likes of Ford, BMW, and Volvo to produce low carbon materials and battery minerals, it means we can use that entire supply chain, that value chain that Rio Tinto already has in order to put our products into.
How fascinating. So Rio Tinto come with an ecosystem that you can plug into.
Yeah, look, I mean, you don't need me to tell you who Rio Tinto are, but they operate in 35 countries. They have over 2,000 customers. It would take quite some time for a Sovereign Metals to have the same type of value chain as they do.
Okay, excellent. So let's stop talking about Rio Tinto there and start talking about rutile. I'm sure there are lots of people that we've lost out there. They don't understand what rutile actually is and how important it is. So let's discuss rutile. Tell us about rutile.
Sure. So rutile is basically titanium dioxide. Now, we all use titanium in many forms and guises on a daily basis. There's obviously the metal, and we're familiar that it's a shiny, non-corrosive, high strength, low weight metal that's used in aerospace, defense, and consumer products these days, with the new Apple iPhone being made from titanium. That's the metal components, and that's probably about 10% of the demand for rutile. About 30% of the demand for rutile comes out of the welding industry. So rutile is actually used within the welding flux. So it's as long as we're putting two pieces of metal together, or required to do so, whether that's to build bridges, ships, etc., cars, we'll be requiring rutile. And then 60% of rutile demand actually comes from the titanium dioxide pigment sector. So that's the pigment space that requires a white pigment for things like paints, plastics. The paint behind me and you, that's white because once upon a time we used to use lead to make it look white. Now we know better, and we use titanium dioxide to do so. And that market in itself is a $26-30 billion market. So and growing. So that's essentially how we use titanium. We don't mine titanium as a metal. Humanity does not do that commercially. In probably 99.99% of cases, what we do is we mine the oxides, and the two main oxides that occur are ilmenite and rutile. Now, ilmenite is 40 to 60% titanium dioxide. It's actually a ferrous titanium dioxide, and it requires a lot of upgrading through energy-intensive processes, usually smelting or roasting, which in themselves produce a number of greenhouse gas emissions. And all of that is comes into play in terms of the cost of ilmenite. So ilmenite trades at about $200 to $300 a ton at the moment. Rutile is 95% titanium dioxide. What's happened is Mother Nature has essentially already beneficiated the ilmenite into rutile, and there's only another 5% to go. But at 95%, rutile is a direct feedstock. So if you're producing pigment, for example, you don't need to put the ilmenite, you don't need to put the feedstock into a smelter or a roasting kiln to then use what's known as synthetic rutile or slag. You can just simply mine the rutile and use it immediately in your feedstock. And again, that's reflected within the price of rutile, which, last reported prices were about $1,900 per ton. So significantly above where ilmenite trades.
And there's no new rutile deposits been discovered for many decades. Is that right?
70 years since a rutile dominant deposit was found, which is probably why many people don't know about it. Most of the rutile that we mine is actually a byproduct of ilmenite mines. So there's only one rutile producer in the world outside of China, and that's Sierra Rutile in Sierra Leone. Now, they've been mining for decades, and their project, their Area 1, is essentially running out of reserves within 3 years. The other portion of rutile that comes as a byproduct comes from Base Resources, which predominantly mines ilmenite, has zircon and many other mineral sands within there. But the rutile there essentially finishes in December 2024. So in terms of supply, we're seeing a 40 to 50% decline in rutile supply before CCO comes online.
How interesting. No, that really is fascinating. So how mining friendly is Malawi? How are you getting on with your permitting, or how do you expect to get on with your permitting? What sort of relationship do you have with the government at the moment? If you could put that in context.
Yeah, so Sovereign Metals as a company, as a management team, have been in Malawi for the best part of around 14, 15 years. So we know our way around town there. We have a very good working relationship with the Ministry of Mines and the other ministries involved. In fact, when we put out our PFS and we announced Rio coming in as a shareholder, those discussions with the Malawian government increased. They asked us, what are your holdups? What's stopping you guys going, full pelt at this project, and why is it not in production as of yesterday? And look, one of the key things we mentioned was it would be nicer if all the different ministries would be able to talk to one another, and within the space of days, they had convened an interministerial committee. So what that is essentially a one-stop shop for us as Sovereign Metals to go to get things like permitting, land, social issues, anything like that. Just anything where we need governmental input, we just have this one-stop shop now, rather than having to go to different ministries. So that should give you an indication of just how important this project is to them.
I'm hugely impressed by that. That's not what I normally hear.
No, and look, mining itself, it's in its infancy in Malawi. There's only one other mine that was built, and that was a uranium mine up in the north of Malawi, and that went into care and maintenance post-Fukushima. So timing there wasn't great. The history there hasn't been great. But the government understands, in order for Malawi to become even more self-sufficient, it needs investment in, and it needs to advance certain industries. And the three industries that they've actually specifically written into their strategy are mining, agriculture, and tourism. So it's nice that we are, at the forefront of everyone's minds.
You're one of the three pillars that they're focusing on. Very good. Let's look ahead to the news flow for 2024. I presume you're working hard on your definitive feasibility study next. So what will the workflow there look like? Gives us some sort of sense of timeline.
Sure. So we we've convened a technical committee with Rio Tinto. What that is essentially 3 individuals from Sovereign, 3 individuals from Rio Tinto. And what we're looking at is, as I said before, understanding and hopefully exploiting the true potential of this project. It's huge. The mineralization, never mind the land package. I'm not talking about exploration licenses here. The mineralized zone is the size of 5 Manhattan Islands, to put it into context. This is massive. It's a multi-generational asset. It's going to need a lot of thought before we go into a full-blown DFS, because the last thing we want to do is just do a simple DFS which doesn't really look at all the optionality and all the understanding of what the true potential of this project is. So that'll be things like understanding the configuration and the sequencing of the different mine pits that we use, where is the best place to put certain infrastructure, all those fun and games that, we miners like to call optimization. So you should be hearing a lot more about that in the next kind of 3 to 6 months. Alongside that, we announced in November that we've kicked off a lot of a big bulk graphite sampling program, and that's for testing the graphite within lithium-ion batteries. That'll feed directly into our strategy to get our graphite into that space. Just on that, we are not looking to, do anything downstream. We're not producing anodes or anything like that. We're very much concentrating on our, on our wheelhouse of producing a graphite concentrate and getting that out of the port in Nacala.
So you wouldn't think of building processing in Malawi?
We're very much sticking to our knitting here. I mean, look, Rio Tinto may have other ideas, and it's not something that we've discussed at all. They do have a battery minerals division, but I think all of us understand what we're very good at and what would require new knowledge and understanding that we don't exactly bring to the table right now.
Okay, so final question. Thank you for the interview, by the way. What a fantastic interview. Final question. Why should investors have Sovereign Metals on the watch lists in 2024?
There's a lot of discussion around critical minerals and electric vehicles, supply chain. Sovereign Metals is a nice way to play invest in a project that would be considered a market leader in not 1 but 2 critical minerals. That's titanium, that's graphite. We would be the largest producer in both minerals. We'd be the lowest cost producer in both minerals. We're the only graphite company I know of that has a byproduct, which makes it much more financeable than others. We're the only project of our kind in terms of a graphite project that has a major behind us, and I alluded to the benefits of that. And we have a lot more news to come out over the course of the next 6 months.
Yes, it's a busy 2024 for you. Okay. Thank you, Sapan Ghai from Sovereign Metals. Thank you so much for joining us today to tell us about Kasaya, largest natural rutile mine in the world, potentially, and second largest graphite producer. Take note. That's not a small thing. For more company information and to access the company bulletin board, please go to the Sovereign Metals page on London South East. And meanwhile, do follow us on Twitter. That's @_FocusIR_. And also at London Southeast, or register on London Southeast YouTube to receive alerts to our next Sovereign interview. And all that remains for me to say is thank you very much indeed for watching.